All right, seeing quorum, the chair opens up the September 21st, 2022 meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board being held in the Coit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road, North Mashpee, Massachusetts. The time is 7 o'clock. We're being recorded and videographed, broadcast live also on local channel 18, and streamed live at the Town of Mashpee website, https://www.mashpeema.gov/channel-18. I'd ask you all to rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have minutes from September 7th.
So approve, motion to approve, I should say.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I don't think they're in our packet, but you emailed them.
Apologies.
So is everybody good approving them? No discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay, thank you.
Apologies, board. We have a new staff member who began today, and she assisted with the assembly of the packet, so we'll work out that kink for the next one. We'll work out the kink.
We have a public hearing at 7:10. Do we want to go to vote to set a public hearing date for modification of definitive subdivision plan under new business?
Sure. So we have received an application to modify definitive subdivision plan. The subdivision is known as Spring Hill West. Specifically, the proposal is to modify a few lot lines on the Tudor Terrace street of that particular subdivision, and to further modify the existing special permit, cluster subdivision special permit on record, to incorporate a contiguous adjacent parcel to the previously approved subdivision. It's just over 6 acres now under control and ownership of the, it's under the same ownership of the Spring Hill West subdivision. So we'll need to set 2 public hearing dates, one to modify the definitive and the other to modify the special permit that's associated with the Spring Hill West subdivision, because again, to get adequate frontage on Tudor Terrace, the proposal is to modify existing lot lines on Tudor Terrace and then incorporate the contiguous adjacent land area for 3 additional building lots. So it's a modification of 3 existing current building lots and the addition of 3 new building lots with the requisite contribution of open space pursuant to the cluster provisions at the time of the original subdivision's approval, which I think was 1989. So my recommendation is to establish those 2 public hearing dates for October 19th to give my office adequate time for notice.
Really?
So is that adequate time for notification?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So what do we make a motion for October 19th at 7:20 for the both public hearings, or do we have to make one for each one at 7:10?
Well, we have something that's probably going to go 7:10. We have a letter
From here, yeah.
here from,
Oh, that, yeah.
so they kind of been in the queue
Oh, okay.
for a while, so I was thinking of maybe 7:20 and 7:25.
Sure. 7:20 to 7:25.
And so which one do we do first?
Either or, because in past practice, we've opened one public hearing and at the requisite time, opened the second and then rolled the proceedings in together. So it doesn't matter which comes first.
So at 7:20, we would set the public hearing for the modification of this definitive subdivision plan?
Sure.
Okay.
And 7:25 would be the public hearing for the associated cluster subdivision special permit modification?
I believe that is logical.
So be then.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'll just jump I'm going to jump down to old business, affordable housing, workforce housing. I think I can squeeze this in 4 minutes. I attended the last meeting of the Affordable Housing Committee meeting, which was last week. And I had emailed the chair, Alan Isbitz, about coordinating between the committee and this board on maybe some zoning to create affordable housing in town. So he said that, yes, he has seen the June 5th email. And so I'm kind of waiting for him how he wants to proceed.
All right.
I think that in lieu of meeting, just chair to chair, I'd like to invite them here. Or, I don't know if, Evan, you want to go to them first with the redevelopment bylaw?
Sure.
So I think they meet every month. So maybe you could go and explain the redevelopment bylaw, and then they can come in here and we could convene together to discuss it?
Sure.
And you mean just like explain the purpose and intent behind what we're seeking to?
Yes, and
To
bring them
create.
kind of up to speed, like the EDIC is,
Sure.
and now we are.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we do that as a plan? Also, community preservation program, there's a public hearing that I hope a lot of people from town will go. It's a public hearing for Thursday, October 6th. The Community Preservation Committee is going to hold a public hearing on the possibilities and resources as they relate to historic preservation, recreation, affordable housing, and open space. It's going to be held at the Senior Center at 26 Frank Hicks Drive. And I'm assuming it's at 6 o'clock. It's definitely in the evening. I think it's at 6. It's either at 6 or 7, I'll have to, but put it on your calendar, Thursday, October 6th. It's the annual public hearing for the Community Preservation Committee. It's going to be held at the Mashpee Senior Center. And so what they'll do is the committee will go through the program, hopefully some performance data on what's been accomplished thus far, what's in progress, and then take public comment on what people would like to see as priority use of the funds. And as you know, the planning board wrote a letter of support for the purchase of 751 Main Street in Mashpee, which is Route 130. So that's the one application the CPC is considering right now, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more. I think they probably are going to set a deadline of sometime in early November for additional applications for funds. And if people have ideas about a certain project in town and want to submit an application, they should come to that October 6th public hearing to learn more about the program. All right, so I got that item out of the way. Okay, so seeing the appointed time has arrived, the chair opens up the 7:10 public hearing. The applicant is Marcelo Malagny, Forestdale Road, LLC. The location is 532 Main Street, Assessor's Map 26, Block 6. The applicant requests consideration for approval of a 9-lot definitive subdivision plan of land consisting of approximately 18.05 acres located on Main Street, Route 130, between Nicoletta's Way and Echo Road. So we received correspondence from Christopher Carrain, who I'd like to recognize at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Attorney Christopher Carrain representing the applicant. I did submit a letter this afternoon requesting a further continuance. Unfortunately, negotiations between the applicant and the owners of Nicoletta's Way broke down, and basically at the 11th hour, we're not able to reach an agreement. So we are going to be putting forth a revised and updated subdivision plan for this board's consideration, hopefully at the October 19th meeting as requested. So, the applicant certainly took the board's recommendation of trying to make this, they made a concerted effort to try to negotiate. And unfortunately, you need two parties to make a deal, and we weren't able to do that. So,
So is the date October 19th enough time for you to make any changes and be in touch with our engineer?
I believe so. I've had some conversations with Evan and updated him of where things stand, and he believes that that's, October 19th is sufficient time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a question of the
Yeah.
attorney? Not being fully aware of what the proposed modifications to the plan are, I would just suggest and request that those modifications get to my office as soon as possible so that we can get them to the engineer with enough time to provide any written comment that may be necessary to the planning board. And we'll proceed accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, I know that we'll have to, one of the changes to the plan is adding the 4 acres of open space that will need to go to the Conservation Commission. There may have been some initial comments when this first came before the board from Ed Pesci that need to be incorporated, and if there's certainly anything else, that we'll have all those things ready for you on the 19th for consideration.
May I ask one more question?
Yes, oh, yes.
Are there, do you anticipate, or has it been indicated by Mr. Malegny's engineers or surveyor relative to the scope of what the proposed modification? Is it limited to only the open space contribution? Because if that's the case, then Ed Pesci's already delivered a report. So if there's no modification to the proposed layout or any other substantive technical matter with regard to road construction, we wouldn't need an additional report from Ed.
Right. Yeah,
I think that we should still have Ed look it over.
Sure.
I think it's been a while.
Yeah.
It has been a while.
I'd still like to make sure that Ed's report is up to date. and I'd
Understood.
like him to
Absolutely.
do that, yeah.
All right, should we close this public hearing? Is
No,
that
we
the one, or
continue
just
it.
continue
No,
it?
we're going to continue
Okay.
it. I just wanted to ask the project proponent to review those initial meetings. There were comments by, I forget what board member said, but I remember that there were comments from the abutters.
Yes.
So you might want to get a jump start on addressing those.
Right, I know there was one comment from one of the owners on a Schumid. I think those concerns are going to be allayed by the fact that the 4 acres that's being contributed to the concert is down that way, so that would be, blocking the access there. So I think, but we'll review with the applicant. Unfortunately, we put all our effort into trying to make this deal happen. Now we have to pivot to, going back before the board. So we'll review everything and get back before the board.
Yeah, Christie has pretty good minutes.
Yes.
From those meetings, so I just take a quick, I anticipate the abutters coming again, right?
I would anticipate.
And they'll say the same thing,
Right.
so we just want to be ready to address all their.
Absolutely.
Prior to the first continuance to establish a negotiation with the Nicoletta's Way trustees, I delivered a memo to the board that I will be resending to you. But based on the location of the proposed roadway, in consideration of the existing condition regarding intersections and adjacent roadways, it was suggested that the board proceed or suggest a traffic study with a relatively specific scope of work. I don't know if it would be prudent to obtain quotes for that work so that we can come prepared to present that potential work to the applicant for their consideration at the time the public hearing reopens after this continuance? Or would you prefer to wait to do that work until after a new plan is submitted? And I'm asking the board.
So this would just be quotes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see no harm in
I
that.
think it's a good idea, actually, because you're gonna need it.
And then,
You're gonna need a traffic study.
he's been working.
I don't
trying to
know, but I think that at least if we have that discussion, would at least, if it goes the way that it appears the town planner is recommending, would at least have the quote to go forward. Why do you need a quote?
Well, I think because the cost of the work is going to be paid for by, it would be my recommendation that the board suggest or request the applicant pay for the study, and we'd like to provide him with with quotes to complete the scope of work. It's what we've done in past practice.
Oh, okay.
So
And
just-
our planning board engineer doesn't do traffic studies, right?
Well, Ed could certainly connect us with firms, but we would generally, I would recommend getting competitive quotes for a consistent scope of work.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But just as long as we're clear that we haven't made a decision about that or not,
No, appreciate that. Thank you.
right? Okay, so,
Make a motion, set the public hearing to the 19th of October at, what do you have?
7:10.
7:10.
we left 7:10
7:10.
open for you.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
You can start us off. Okay, is there a second?
I'll
I think
be here
you'll be
for
here
the
a lot that
7:20
evening.
and the 7:25 as well.
Oh, no. So is there a second for 7:10?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Okay.
Great.
so
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Have a great
We'll
night.
see you on the 19th and get it done, okay?
See you guys.
Okay, so I think we can go to new business, a pre-application conference as requested by Carl Goering of Goering and Associates LLC on behalf of Selco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless pursuant to section 17445.3 of our zoning bylaws, paren, I think that's an L?
It's an I.
I, of the Mashpee zoning bylaws for the purpose of informing the board as to the preliminary nature of the proposed personal wireless service facility at 524 Great Neck Road North. And I would just like to share a comment that I made with the town planner. When this formally comes before us, it's a public hearing. So I've never been in a pre-application conference with a project proponent before. Our bylaw allows it, but I just recommend that we refrain from any opinions, right? Because when this project comes forward, it's a formal application, it's a formal public hearing. Is that right, Evan? Am I okay with that?
You're absolutely okay with that.
Okay.
Again, the zoning bylaw encourages applicants.
Does that mean? Oh, wait, I want to let Evan finish his sentence. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries, Karen. The zoning bylaw, the reference section of the zoning bylaw here encourages applicants seeking to submit an application for a personal wireless service facility to informally meet with the board just to offer very high-level information and to introduce themselves as to the purpose and intent of the application, the proposal's locus, or the location where it's proposed, and then we can, I would suggest Mr. Gehring, if it's possible, inform you of potential timelines of when we can expect the application to be submitted, so my office can be prepared. But this is a mandatory referral as a DRI, Development of Regional Impact, so upon the opening of the public hearing in the future, this would be an automatic referral to the commission for review, and then would be back to the board for review and deliberation. So again, I would echo Mary's comments that tonight is a listening opportunity for the board. If you have any questions relative to process or otherwise, I'd suggest you direct them to me. And Mr. Gehring will, what I've asked Mr. Gehring to do for this pre-application conference is to describe the locus of the proposal, a little bit about the intended process and timeline moving forward.
And that's the Cape Cod Commission.
That's the gentleman here. So
No, I mean, when if it gets referred, you said to the commission.
Cape Cod Commission.
Cape Cod Commission.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so I will recognize Mr. Gurn.
Thank you. Carl Gearing on behalf of Verizon. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. So pre-application, I'm not going to get into the substance. I just want to show you the location is across the street from the 99 restaurant there. Basically, we're the phone company. We're going to be putting this tower in our backyard, the backyard of the phone company building. It's a perfect spot for it. It's in the C1 zoning district and also in the wireless overlay. And I just have some, I'm going to put together a very comprehensive application. I'm working on it now. I had reached out earlier in the year and had sort of a false start where I thought I had given the green light to proceed. And I don't know if you recall, I had requested a pre-app, then I withdrew it and everything. And so behind the scenes, there was some things going on, but now I have been told go full speed ahead. So I've reached out to the Cape Cod Commission. I'm reaching out to you folks to let you know I'm coming into town. It'll be within the next month or so. I believe a wise person learns not only from their own mistakes, but the mistakes of others. So I've been looking for some input or advice from you on what we can do, what Verizon can do better that maybe prior tower applicants didn't. And if there's anything specifically you'd like to see. So my application will contain obviously a narrative going through line by line, the various elements of your bylaw. the RF plots proving the need. I'll have a sound study in there. I'll have a real estate impact report. I'll have photo sims. I'll have the plans. I'll have proof of RF compliance under federal law. There are wetlands in the back of the property that we're staying away from. We're non-jurisdictional in our spot, but I'll provide a wetlands report to show you that we have investigated those, and on the plans it'll demonstrate that we're outside of those boundaries. So there's no traffic per se to this. It's an unmanned, unoccupied, remotely monitored utility, wireless telephone utility facility. There's no traffic, so I wouldn't think a traffic study would be required. But is there anything in particular that you folks would want to see in addition to what I mentioned that we could have the heads up on so I come prepared with my application?
Is this the only slide you're sharing with me?
Yeah, I don't want to get into the whole thing right now. Evan had suggested, and you pointed out, and I think it's a good idea because it's not advertised yet. I don't want to start getting into the substance of it, but I wanted to show you that's where it's going to be. Those dots. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is sort of a logistical question, sort of a catch-22 on this balloon float. Your bylaw talks about a balloon float, and it specifically reads that either within 30 days of the pre-app, so 30 days of tonight, or within 21 days after filing, we advertise and fly a balloon. The Cape Cod Commission folks may want to see a balloon float too. I always fly a balloon whether it's required or not. I always do one of these so we can create photo sims, so I can file with photos that are accurately rescaled, and also so I can understand what it looks like, so when I'm describing it in my narrative, I'm basing it on facts that I personally visit every balloon float I'm running the application on, so I can witness it firsthand. But the way we do this is we keep in touch with the engineers and, like say, hey, how's next Tuesday? Look, we try to find a really calm morning when there's no wind, because it can be raining, it can be snowing, you can have drizzle, but if you have wind, it totally messes the thing up. So we did this at the last minute where the guy just said, how about tomorrow? And we get up early and go out there, and we were successful, and we were able to create these sims that you'll see when I file. To advertise one of these things is not so easy to know, on some Tuesday 3 weeks from now that it's going to be calm. The board, following that section that talks about balloon float, it talks about the board having the ability to waive. So what I'm wondering is that it's possible to coordinate with you folks and the Cape Cod Commission, so if we are going to do another advertised float, it's just done once. If we do one with you guys, and then we file, and then you refer us to them, and then they may say, well, we need to see another balloon float, and then now we're doing it again, and it ends up being a nightmare. And believe it or not, with the whole supply chain thing, helium is hard to get, is hard to come by. The last balloon float I did with the engineers, the guy was like, this is the only tank we've got. I hope we don't pop the balloon, and I didn't realize that was a problem. So when I file, I'm going to supply photo sims to show you that were taken on a flat, calm day to show you really what this thing's going to look like. And they were taken to not to hide it, but they were taken where can you see it, kind of in-your-face shots. And anything else beyond that is you're not really going to be able to see. We think this is a great site because you're going to see it, and then you drive away, and it's not visible for long periods of time. So how do we do this logistically, on making the decision if you'd want to waive that or wait till the commission, or should I be in touch with Evan and the Cape Cod Commission about that? How do we boil it down where I only do one more float?
So Evan, what does our bylaws say?
I have not reviewed this particular section, so I would want to take a look at it. I don't have a particular recommendation, not having reviewed it. Can I take a look at the copy of the bylaw you brought, Carl?
Yeah.
If the board's looking for some particular direction this evening?
Yep.
Because what you are suggesting seems perfectly logical.
Basically it's either 30 days from now or within 21 days of filing, and then it has to be advertised at least 14 days, but not more than 21 days. So that's this thing where you get out the calendar, and then you have to find out when's the advertising deadline to the newspaper. I gotta back off 2 days, and then you got to hope the date you pick is going to be good weather. It rarely works out like that.
So that would be different than the images we already have?
I'm sorry?
That would be different than the photos we already have, Evan?
No, those would be, that's the thing. They'd end up looking like the exact same thing, because we already did a balloon float.
Yeah.
So that's really how it is in our bylaw. It could make you vulnerable to an appeal. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that the board would waive that formally once it's back to us, and a public hearing, I think there's a good chance that
I
the board would
believe
waive
it.
that.
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there that it makes you vulnerable on appeal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So maybe what I'll do is reach out to the Cape Cod Commission and discuss this dilemma with them and see, are you going to want another flow? Can we tie it in to be the same thing? We're coming to you guys anyway. I don't know how that would work, but I just would want to try to not have to do 3 floats, you know? We've done one, we do another one, and hopefully that's it. Especially in this instance where there are no residences around there. I
That's
don't
what I'm
bel-
thinking, there's not many residents.
No, this is, in my opinion, I don't want to jinx myself here, but I don't feel this is going to be a controversial site based on its commercial location within the wireless overlay. And it is pretty heavily wooded around there where you can't see it until all of a sudden you come around the corner, okay, there it is, and then it's gone again, so.
Okay, I don't think that the board waiving that requirement at the time that we could would relieve you of that
All right.
liability, that's
Okay,
all.
yep, okay. No, I appreciate that. So
That's the only thing I'm concerned about. is-
Yep. Is there anything else that you would want to see us, besides the plots and the RF and all the things I mentioned? Are there any things that prior applicants you wish they had provided or that you've asked them to provide and that caused a continuance? I'd rather come in day one with everything you need to make a decision.
I'm just curious why you picked that spot. I mean,
Well, so
Is
the
there a
RF,
demand in that
we
area?
have a problem, and I'm going to get into all this in the hearing. We have a big problem in this area, and then the RF engineers will give what they call as a search area to the real estate folks and say, go out to this area, and it's sort of a defined blob, try to find an existing tower, or a tall building, a water tank, some other structure, and there aren't any in that area. As you folks know, you know the town better than I do, but they saw, hey, there's the Verizon, there's our building right there, rather than negotiate a lease with a private owner from scratch, we're going in behind our parent company's building, basically. It really makes sense. And where a better place to see a wireless telephone
Verizon.
structure than behind the phone company building?
can you camouflage the pole?
That
Well,
was
that
gonna
was
be
gonna be
my,
my
that was
question.
gonna be,
My
I'd
only
like you to
suggestion.
discuss, when you come to us, well, before you come to us, when you go to the Cape Cod Commission, you could talk about camouflaging it.
Camouflaging?
Yeah, they make
They
them look like
make it look
trees.
like a tree.
Yeah, like a tall pine tree.
That's what you'd prefer to see?
Well, we can't really say that, but we can tell you that we're interested in that dialogue, what's the benefit and drawback
I see.
for your project if the pole is
I
camouflaged.
got you, okay, all right.
And I think in our bylaw, it talks about different methods.
Yeah. Abutters from the most recent tower process 4 years ago were interested in seeing camouflaging. So painting the pole a light blue to match the sky or doing the monopine scenario. Ultimately, just industry best practice options, I think would be prudent to include with your submission.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. The photo shows an array of transmitters or relays.
Yep.
Is there planning for expanded
So-
tower use?
So we're just Verizon?
So that will be, so if you could discuss that when you come back to us.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. Sorry, Rob.
No, no.
Anything else, Rob?
Nope.
Now, is it okay if something comes to one of us tomorrow that we tell you about that?
Oh, absolutely, and I can pass it along
Okay.
to Mr. Gearing, no problem.
So you're gonna get the application to us, we're gonna refer it right to the Cape Cod Commission. And then it comes back to us.
Yeah, after the closure of their public hearings and a decision is rendered.
So let me just clarify this logistically, because I apologize, I haven't done that process. So for that first one, when I file, is it noticed to all the public and everyone shows up only for the fact that we're going to open it and refer it, nothing's talked about?
Yes.
And your application to us has to be complete.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Has to be the big, thick book with everything.
all right.
And then it's a mandatory
Yeah, so,
referral because it's a cell tower or over a certain height?
because it's a cell tower.
And it goes to the Cape Cod Commission.
So upon receipt of your application, once it's filed with the town clerk and in my office, at the planning board's next available agenda, I'll ask the planning board to establish the public hearing date and to set that, and we'll communicate that to you. Once that is established, we'll do our normal advertising in the newspaper and to abutters of the property, public hearing will open as normal, and I always include language in our butters notifications and the newspaper that there's going to be no deliberations at this opening meeting, and they will be automatically referred to the commission. And obviously, public hearings will open at the commission level for their regional review, and folks will have the opportunity to participate in those. And then just as good faith, I always, once it's referred back to the town, I'll notify folks informally that the public hearing will reopen.
You're going to notify the abutters again.
That it's coming back.
Yeah.
And so then.
Even though we're not required to notify them at that point, we notify them again. It's a courtesy
I
letter.
think you would have to be required unless you had a date certain on your original continuance, right?
That's how we deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
at the first meeting then, do I make a presentation or there's
Nope.
nothing said? It's just,
No.
here's this thing, we're going to refer it, that's it, end of story?
yes.
Okay. All right, I want to know, because I have this whole team, this entourage of experts that attend with me for the actual public hearing. I don't want to drag them all out here.
All right.
I suggest they stay home.
Okay. All right, so I will file a complete application. You will notice the abutters. We'll show up at a hearing. You'll say, here it is, it's wireless, it's referred. I say, thank you. I go see them. That takes however long. Then they either approve it or deny it. And then if they approve it, hopefully, then I come back here, and then you re-advertise, and we set up a public hearing, and then I'm off and running with you folks.
That's correct.
Is that the gist of it then?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You got it.
If
Okay,
you have
thank
any
you.
questions, just go call Evan in the office. You know, if you're not sure what you're doing with the
Yeah,
application.
please
Evan's
be in
there.
touch with Evan if you have any other questions.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, Evan, are planning board members encouraged, discouraged from going to those Cape Cod Commission meetings, or how does that go?
Neither or, you are perfectly welcome to attend a public meeting, just as anyone else would.
Okay.
So I would say you're absolutely welcome to attend, but I don't know if it's encouraged or discouraged, but it's your right to attend and listen to the regional review.
Okay.
I have traditionally attended those hearings so that I can report to you.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good.
So are there is any you can advise me that prior wireless applicants you wish had done better or differently or included in their application that you requested from them that caused a continuance? I want to come 100% ready on day one. Can you think of anything?
The problem I had with the last cell tower, I don't think they performed to my satisfaction, and probably to the board as well, their due diligence of finding adequate properties for the coverage that they were trying to cover. And there were, in my opinion, better properties that could have been chosen or pursued that were better than the proposed property that they're eventually using.
To address the coverage gap.
Okay.
So we know, there's three of us that sat through that, there's three of us that understand coverage gap, but if you could make sure you can explain that very well to everybody in attendance, the board and the public, once you're back to us, the coverage gap.
Okay.
That's why I asked you, why'd you pick that spot?
Yeah.
I wanted to know, did you do the coverage?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at, it's a lot of woods behind there, so the trees are gonna get covered.
Right, so cover, yeah, so,
I like this, I mean, I'm all for the cell tower.
So I will have that all explained. Do you concur I don't need a traffic study?
No, I don't.
Just how about
I don't-
stormwater runoff? I mean, this is a real small little postage
I don't
stamp
think
piece
so.
of nothing land. I mean,
our bylaw is really extensive, so does our bylaw ask for a traffic study?
I don't think so. It's pretty specific, Carl. My recommendation would be to follow the zoning to the letter. Anything that the commission may require, the board would want to be provided that information. If the commission's going to say, yeah, do a traffic study, then the board would obviously want to see those findings. But given the traffic volume anticipated at such a facility was like one vehicle trip a quarter, I wouldn't be recommending to the board that a traffic study would be a necessary
Okay.
endeavor.
What about stormwater runoff plans? This is not a big development, a lot of impervious surface.
I don't think so.
Depends on how much asphalt you're introducing into the site.
Yeah.
I don't think, they
Depends,
don't
right.
put much asphalt.
Zero, so, okay.
It'd be just the pad, it'd be
Yeah.
concrete, you know. it's all
Okay,
right.
because I just, those things take time to engineer, and I want to make sure if you always want one of those, that I know about it and I can order it now, or tomorrow morning. But that sounds like that's, okay, well, thank you for your time. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to
Thank you.
presenting this to you formally in the coming months.
All right.
Appreciate you putting me on the docket.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, actually, Mary, can I note one thing to Mr. Gearing before he
Yes,
departs? I just want to, I can put this in writing too as well, just application fees. The board has a consulting engineer who is going to review the plan set at the time of the application. The board has two fees. One, the application fee is relatively minimal, I'll let you know what it is, but the board will also request or require a $5,000 fee that covers the peer review and inspections by our consulting engineer that's held in an account in the treasurer's office. Any fees that are left over are returned to the applicant at the completion of the project, assuming that it gets constructed. And if it gets drawn down to a value of less than $2,500 or 50% of the total value, we'll be following up with you to reseed that to the total $5,000. So I just want to make you aware that at the time of the application, we'll be seeking those funds to hold in escrow.
At the time we file.
Yes.
And who does that made out to?
The town of Mashpee.
Okay. A separate check from the application fee?
Yes. So it would be two checks, and then additionally, I also would be asking for a check for the cost of mailing. But I'll be following up with you in that regard.
Okay, and then the legal ad, does that get sent to me separately, directly from the newspaper? Or?
We will deal with the legal ad, and that the cost of that is covered in the application fee itself.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be back.
All right.
Have a good night, thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, next item is local comprehensive plan updates.
I wanted to jump on the beta test. I was supposed to have this to you. The reason you don't have it is because I was reviewing the survey one last time prior to sending you the link, and I identified a number of issues I didn't catch before. And they are as follows. We have a number of questions with scales contained in the questions, quality of life, how is your quality of life? How do these things impact your quality of life? I can't exactly remember what the language is, but the language of the question was inconsistent with the scale we were asking people to respond to. So we needed that to be rectified, and I didn't want to provide it to you without those issues being rectified.
Yep.
And there's a bit of a clunky process with Weston and Sampson. I think I've noted this to you before about their HR controlling their Survey Monkey. So they have to, every time I have a change that I've requested, it can't just be done by Ashley. It has to be done by somebody else at Weston and Sampson. It just isn't that efficient, so I apologize for that. Ashley committed to have the edits made to me by this Friday, so I can have it to you before the weekend. And so with that, I think our review timeline is getting rather condensed, and it would be up to you to decide if we want to wait a little to release it or just, have everyone understand that our timeline's getting smaller. But I really wanted to make sure that there were no outlying issues when we did the beta test because it could impact the time it takes to do the survey. So that's why you haven't received it yet, and I do apologize for that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could you start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Could you explain what this discrepancy is?
Yeah, so I want to try to think of an example. Example, question. How significant of an impact do the following factors have in your quality of life in Mashpee? Very significant, somewhat significant, significant, neutral, not significant, very insignificant. Okay, but when we're asking it, we're not having consistency between the question asking about significance, and so the scale is like very important. or-
Satisfied, very satisfied.
Exactly, it's not
Simple.
consistent with the question. So it doesn't make sense. It's almost like the person who input it saw what the scale was for the first question and then carried it through the whole survey.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that the answer, the scales match the question.
Yeah.
And I didn't catch it in my first review, and I apologize.
It's a lot of work. You don't have to apologize.
So it'll be here very shortly.
The surveys are a lot of work.
A work in progress.
We're almost there. All right, great.
Workshops and focus groups. We have on the 26th, next week, parents of school-age children workshop. Letters and invitations went home with kids last week. Chrissy, last week? Chrissy got one.
You're our test.
Chrissy got one. So they went to Coombs and Quashnet. They did not go to the high school. Tomorrow night, I will be at one of the open houses. I think it's KCC. And then next week, there's an additional open house. And I will be attending those just to invite folks. The second one is after the workshop.
Right.
But I'm going to be there to say, if you didn't get to this, we're hosting an additional virtual workshop on Monday the 3rd. So advertising for that will be forthcoming very shortly, probably by the end of the week. And so I really want this one to be well attended, so doing everything we can to
So
motivate
the
folks.
virtual one is when?
For specifically for parents and students is September
November
26th. And the main one, the kind of like condensed systems workshop, virtual workshop, October 3rd. It's a Monday,
Okay.
Do you know what time that's going to start?
6:30 to 8:30.
Okay. And any word from the tribe?
We are confirmed for this Sunday,
This Sunday?
the 25th. Is that this Sunday?
It is.
Yeah. Ashley, Blake, myself will all be in attendance, and then hopefully
I don't
some-
think they've done any advertising.
they confirmed with me, so I don't know what their intent is for advertising.
Okay.
And I actually, I spoke with the secretary of the chairman yesterday, who verbally confirmed to me that will be on the agenda.
When are they doing the standout, that orange shirt
That's the 30th,
of the 30th, all right?
and that's like at 5 o'clock, September 30th at the Rotary.
Yeah, so with the 25th presentation, the tribe, the 2 virtual workshops, and then the survey, that would bring us to the closure of the community engagement.
Good.
And on the 25th, is that a 2 o'clock start?
Yes, it is. I would anticipate I'll be there somewhat early because I want to set up the atrium there at the government center, similarly to what we had at Southport. What I was told is that there are sometimes matters on the agenda for the general body membership meeting where non-tribal members can't be present in the room. So we are likely to be early on the agenda to give a presentation, just as we have in previous workshops. And what we suggested, or what David Whedon, Selectman Whedon has suggested, is that we make our presentation be set up in the atrium and invite attendees as they come and go, or to leave and engage with us in that space, because we won't be able to sit in the meeting room. So that's the architecture and framework of the meeting, and hopefully we get some decent feedback.
Okay.
Oh, is it still me? No, that's it. I'm good.
All right, anything else on that matter? We already did affordable housing, workforce housing, the Clean Water Initiative. I'm going to bump to the chairman's report. Chairman's report. So we made a presentation to the Board of Selectmen on the 21st regarding our 2 proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw. So first, starting with the floodplain overlay, a proposed zoning law bylaw amendment, I was going to turn to Karen to give us an update.
Madam Chair, I'd like to speak for just a minute, if I may. First of all, I want to thank you, Evan, for all the hard work you put into that floodplain bylaw, proposed bylaw. And I thank this board for unanimously agreeing to send it over to the select board. The select board, as you probably know, excised the prohibition of fill in the floodplain and the exceptions proposed. And then they approved and passed the skeletal bylaw, which took out the prohibition of fill in the floodplain and the exceptions. Excuse me, I apologize. One of the reasons for not passing the prohibition of fill in the floodplain version was that they said they didn't have sufficient time to do a thorough study. Evan turned the proposal in, correct me if I'm wrong, on July 11th. I don't know exactly when the select board got a copy of it in hand, but they had it for at least 4 weeks, which should have been enough time to ask questions and express their concerns to the town planner. So going forward, I'm recommending for any future proposed bylaws, we get the bylaw in the hands of the select board as soon as possible. and have at least one public workshop well before the closing of the warrant. This way, all questions should be answered.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So there is still a portion of the bylaw that is on the warrant. I believe the Board of Selectmen voted to put it on the warrant and voted it's
Well,
recommended it.
That's because if they didn't, the town would lose their credit for the flood insurance. So they had to put that on. It's a shame that they didn't put the fill on, because that causes a lot of problems down on Shore Drive and stuff with those raised houses. It's flooded all the time. And those people spend a lot of money digging drains on the sides of the streets, put new drainage in. Every year they spend the money. And you go down there, if it's really heavy, it's like a foot of rain or better in those roads. I don't understand. We didn't stop them from building any houses. All they had to do was put them up 14 feet. And say your land was 10 feet above sea level, that means you put your foundation 14 feet on piles or a foundation with holes in it that the water would go through. We weren't stopping anybody from building down there.
I thought that was a small measure and the builders were still able to build. They had two ways to build. And it would also go, and maybe you could speak on this, it would also go toward, our watershed plan, our watershed permit, doing anything and everything we can to help this town, apart from doing the sewers, of course.
And
I think-
another thing that happens down there, they raise the house up and they take the elevation off of where they raised it up. So even though they're 35 feet, if they went to where the yard used to be, they're like 40 feet now.
Yes.
45 feet. You get those big houses there and you look at them, how the heck did these ever get built? They're way over what the town allows, 35 feet.
So the 35 feet has to be on the natural surface
Natural
to the
surface
peak of the
before you
roof.
raise anything, wherever the yard used to be.
They take an average of the four corners.
Average natural
The
grade.
average of 4 points, yeah.
Yeah.
But that don't mean you raise it, 6 feet and take it from there. I know they built a house on my street, and that's what the engineer did. They raised the house and they took the elevation from that point up, and the house is 42 feet now. So in my neighborhood, they're all Cape houses, unless on the water, but, they're all 30 feet to 35 tops. And you get this house, it's like,
Yeah, there are even more issues on that one than just that, but yeah, it's quite a looming structure on that street.
oh, yeah.
So why was it approved for occupancy if
Yeah,
it did
it-
not conform?
It didn't, no.
It's not approved for
It's
occupancy.
not, they have to take the roof off or
Oh,
whatever they gotta do.
Thank you. I thought they went ahead and.
No,
So is it an empty house? No
No.
CO?
no, they let them live in there, but they don't have no insurance.
Right. They're living
And
at
if
their own
something
risk.
happens,
Yeah, the host.
they're stuck, whatever happens, if there was a fire or something, they would have to rebuild without any insurance, and, But
What I'd like to do a little bit of is look at our MVP plan and our hazard mitigation plan.
yeah.
And maybe hold some workshops with, again, the building commissioner, the town planner,
We can invite the Barnstable County floodplain coordinator as well.
coordinator, and talk about the floodplain and see if we want to resubmit this again.
Yeah, I like to resubmit
One
that.
thing I'd like to note to the board is that it was communicated to me by the floodplain coordinator that the prohibition of fill is the likely direction that FEMA is taking, and they're likely to amend regulations to no longer allow fill for the reasons stated in our proposed warrant article, or your proposed warrant article. And so, do nothing, the likelihood is that the federal regulatory structure will catch up. We were just trying to get ahead of things. So I'm more than happy to facilitate a workshop to discuss floodplains and related
Just to
impacts.
see we-
Yeah, and some of the plans that we already have, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's things that the town already committed to doing, and we need to push that out there. I think our MVP plan, which is municipal vulnerability preparedness, I think flooding is a top concern identified in that plan.
It is. I think it's number one, coastal erosion.
I think it is. And then our hazard mitigation plan, gosh, it's so boring to read, but I think we better pull it out and look at it, because
We're actually due for an update this year, so more to come.
I hate reading those. But anyway, they're important. Okay. Anything else on that?
No.
Okay, low-impact development zoning bylaw amendment, that got, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to put that on the warrant and recommend it to town meeting. Evan, should we do some education about what low-impact development is? Do you think the moderator would let us show a quick PowerPoint on it?
I can certainly ask the moderator. There is going to be like a pre-town meeting forum, right?
I don't know.
I think Mr. Miller is planning such an event, so if he is intending on doing so, I will submit the request to the moderator.
What's the matter?
Canceled?
So Chris Ball has done public comment and said that got canceled.
So.
So,
That was just confirmed with me today by Mr. Miller.
Just confirmed today by Mr. Miller.
hot off the press. Okay, thank you, sir. So anyways, we might be able to put flyers out as people come in to town meeting with a little bit of education. I mean, most people, low-impact development, what is that? It's a technical term. So I think that we might be able to piece together from all those resources that we had before.
Yeah.
A nice little brochure, and hopefully, I'd love to do a little PowerPoint on it, real quick, 2 slides.
Sure, I can ask the moderator.
Sounds good.
All right, town planner report.
Nothing to report beyond what I've already reported.
Welcome back.
I do have a new staff member.
You do.
Started this morning, since she just got started, and we have a bit of a light agenda. I wanted her to enjoy being home with her family and her kids. But I would like to introduce her to you at an upcoming meeting, but I'd also like to invite you to my office at any time to introduce yourselves. Dennis had the pleasure of meeting her this morning as I was getting her oriented to Town Hall. But it was a great first day, and I'm really happy to have her on board because it's been almost 7 months.
Yes.
And her name again?
Jennifer Thomas. So-
Jennifer Thomas, great. Okay, board member committee reports, Cape Cod Commission. Okay, so the Cape Cod Commission is having a full meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock, okay? And one of the agenda items is a regional housing strategy plan. I don't know when in their agenda, I don't know if it's gonna be, they're gonna start talking about that at 3 or 3:30. It's like the 5th item on the agenda. But you can zoom in, you can go to the Cape Cod Commission website, you can go to their calendar, and you can go to their agenda that starts tomorrow at 3 o'clock and zoom in and just kind of have it as background noise and just listen to it. I did hear that Housing Assistance Corporation was also putting forward a housing action plan. So it might be interesting to hear what the Cape Cod Commission is up to. Community Preservation Committee, again, public hearing, the annual public hearing is October 6th at the Senior Center. I believe it's a 6 o'clock start. I will let Evan know exactly what time. It's either a 6 or 7 o'clock start. And we expect applications for funding, for community preservation funding, to be due early November. Design review.
Oh, yes, we did have a meeting. Okay, I hope I can get through this. It's at 118 Echo Road, and the owner, believe it or not, is NextGrid. The owner agent, Nathan Collins at NextGrid, he owns this project. What they're going to build is canopies with mounted solar modules and paved asphalt lot used as a contractor's storage yard. Interestingly, it's on a 4.26 acre and they need a special permit because there's going to be maximum impervious coverage to the tune of 93,026 square feet with curbing and berm. And because LID, low impact development, was on my mind, I volunteered that maybe they should do some stormwater management and encourage a little LID planning. But unfortunately, that's not the purview of the design review, so I didn't go any further. But, you know, your language that you put in to require LID, and this just says encourage, so at this point, it hasn't passed.
Where do they need a special permit from?
Board of Appeals.
Board of Appeals, because they're doing 2 acres of maximum impervious?
Well, no, they need it for the contractor's yard.
Pardon me?
They need it for the contractor's yard, and I
Yeah.
think this particular parcel has significant portions of it that are located in the groundwater protection district.
Yes.
I would need to review it. I wasn't actually not at plan review for this meeting, so I don't know the specifics. But I think this site was the, if I remember correctly, I believe this was the facility that had been like turned into a junkyard dump that the town had to fund the cleanup of.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it had gone under an environmental review and all of the material had been removed. So this is a vacant site, stripped
Yeah,
of
they
topsoil
removed
with
all that
nothing on it.
material.
Yeah.
So it is an already significantly disturbed site.
Yeah. There's no trees or anything that I know of.
No, I think it's sand.
Yeah. And the second one was at 79 Echo Road. It's basically a storage area for flooring materials for, I guess, a retail store. It's a metal building, the kind you've seen around, you know, with contractor bays. And it's on 2 acres, and it's just under 10,000 square feet.
Oh, I wonder why.
Just under. Yeah, good planning.
This
Yeah.
must be a special, you know, Cape Cod model of those metal buildings, just under
Yeah,
10,000 square feet.
It's what you've seen, but they did select kind of interesting colors.
Oh, that's good.
I know it's going to be reasonably attractive. And that's it.
Okay, Environmental Oversight Committee.
No meeting, but there is one imminent, I understand, coming.
Great. Historic District.
No meeting.
Harbor Management Plan
Haven't heard a
Committee.
thing.
Now, she wasn't at the meeting on the Board of Selectmen.
I could follow up with Chris Avis, who is actually the one
I
who
assume,
contacted me.
I
so-
thought Chris Davis would
I
have
don't-
called me long before now, but
They're aware that you are the appointee, but I just don't think they're at a point to convene the committee yet, where they are in the grant program, but I can follow up and maybe I can.
Because it
provide
was on the Select Board's agenda yesterday, but I think it was by Ashley Fisher, and she did not attend that
Yeah.
meeting. So,
And I was at that meeting, and part of, when it came up, there's board members, as Mike is one of the
Right.
members, and there are 2 at-large members that are going to be on the meeting, primarily commercial contractor type of people. And the discussion came up, were they advertised positions for this committee? And I believe, I don't know, I haven't seen the minutes of the meeting, but I believe they're going to advertise those positions so anybody could apply
I
for
think for
those
the
2
at-large.
slots. Right.
Okay.
So that's,
okay. And then, related to the Select Board meeting, October 3rd, Brian Howe, right? Brian Howe's presentation about the town's water quality was rescheduled to October 3rd. It was supposed to happen yesterday, but it got
So
rescheduled.
that is the same date as the proposed virtual workshop. Should I reschedule that workshop?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. I truthfully don't anticipate that virtual workshop to be highly well-attended, but we have all the architecture in place. I haven't
do it October
advertised
7th.
anything yet. I need to check in with Ashley relative to her availability. But I do think it is something that I can manage alone, because I did have a test run with Weston and Sampson on how to do the breakout groups and everything. So in the event that Ashley is unavailable and we need to get moving, we can. So the 7th is what? I don't have my calendar in front of me.
It's a
but
Monday. No, October 10th.
10,
I can.
It's a holiday.
How about we say tentatively yes? Oh, it's a holiday?
Columbus Day.
Wait,
All right, how about the 17th? I want to do it on a Monday. It's too far out.
Yeah, I just really want to get the community engagement closed.
Forget that, all right.
I really want to get it closed. I need to look at available options.
All right. Keep us updated.
I will keep you updated.
Oh, motion to adjourn by Karen Faulkner. Sorry, she got you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Touch.
Aye,
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. You lost your